Just a couple minutes until we get started. Thank you so much for being here on time and early. Olivia, welcome. Hello from New York. Wow, thank you guys. So good to see you all. So we're just going to get started in another minute or so. And I just want to remind you all just to refrain from using the chat for side talking and for chatting during the seminar. We're just going to ask that you limit your comments to questions to the facilitators so that we can get to as many people as we can and see all of your wonderful questions. And if you're here and you need Bulgarian translation or Spanish translation, that's also available to you. Hi, Amanda. Good to see you. Welcome. So good to see familiar faces. More from Bulgaria, thank you. Oh, and in Philadelphia, it's snowing. That's fun. I hope you're warm. Wow. Well, it's 10 o'clock. Thank you all so much for joining. Shall we get started? What do you think, Leslie and Ruth?
Sure. Yeah.
Let's go.
Great. All right, so welcome. Thank you all for joining. This is going to be Self-Care with Leslie Boyer and Ruth Rochelle, and they're going to be sharing their personal experience with self-care and also answering some of your questions. I'm Gabriella, and I am Insight's Youth Program Coordinator and Social Media Marketing Girl. And I'm so happy to introduce you this morning to Ruth and Leslie. They have been facilitating with Insight for years. They do their own coaching and facilitating on their own ends. Ruth is in England. We have Leslie out here in California, and they're here this morning just to connect with you guys and share some of their wisdom. And I have to say, both of them have been instrumental in Insight figuring out how to adapt to this new time. They have shared so much of their time and energy with Insight, with our participants, with our team, and we could not be more grateful for both of them. So thank you both for being here, and take it away.
Thank you,
Gabriella.
Thank you so much, Gabriella. That was such a heartwarming welcome. Just getting rid of some of my pictures on here. So I'm going to start, as I'm a Brit. I'm probably a rare Brit on this call, actually. I think there may be one or two others. But I wanted to frame today, and Leslie and I spoke about this, that self-care is a kind of funny subject because there are so many of us and we all need different things in terms of what care is to us. And the extraordinary thing about this time is, like no other really in human history, we are in this together. We're in it together all around the world. So the big context is the same for all of us. We're facing a pandemic. We've been facing a pandemic for many months, and we still are. However, local contexts and personal contexts are quite different. And then our own personal needs in all that are quite different. What it brings up for each of us are quite different. What it triggers in us is quite different. And how the fears that it kind of resonates with inside us, and then the behaviors that we do around that. Some of us are living with somebody else or other people or a family. Some of us are on our own. So many different needs, many different contexts. In addition, there's as many people on this call, as many people on the planet, there are unique gifts of wisdom. Every single one of us is finding our own way through this. So I'm guessing on this call, we have an incredible wealth of wisdom and giftedness around what is self-care. How do human beings take care of ourselves in this context? So I wanted to just hand over to Leslie briefly.
I'm Leslie, for those of you who might not know me, and I've had the pleasure of working in many ways with Ruth. And it's so fun to be doing this with a very good friend of mine who we're so different. And in our conversation, talking about what do you need and what do you need for self-care. So it's going to be a very unique journey for each person, as Ruth said. And I want to remind you that the very first ground rule, and in every insight training, is it starts with take care of yourself. And so how many times have you said that, repeated it in each of the seminars? But have you really stopped to look at what that means, what that might mean? Yes, taking a bubble bath is fantastic, but there are deeper needs that we have. And so this is really going to be an exploration today for you to start reflecting based on what we're sharing and the questions that we answer. What is a deeper level of self-care for you? And we're going to explore it from several different angles. But to get us started, Ruth is going to take us through a brief closed eye process to set this up.
Yeah, before I do, the connection that I've had with Leslie throughout this time and throughout many, 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 many years has been one of my prime personal care. What I say, I'm very grateful for it. It's a gift. We're a long way away, and yet we're very, very close. So yeah, it's great doing this with you, of course. And in some ways, it's almost like here we are having a kind of catch-up Zoom chat like we do many times. So we wanted to start to give you an opportunity to connect self before we even go into this in too much depth. And I noticed that if those of you who were with Marianne and Mike last week, they began with a closed eye exercise. So we thought that would be a great idea to do today as well. Being present with ourselves, in my opinion, is one of the most powerful ways of taking care of myself, because it gives me a chance to find out, well, what's going on? What's going on with me? What's true? So take a moment to close your eyes and allow yourself to take a very big breath. Just receive the air. And as you breathe out, let yourself settle on your chair and let the chair take your weight. And then take a few moments to simply experience your breath. As you breathe in and breathe out. And become aware of the quality of that breath. I'm noticing for me, I'm a little nervous on this call, and my breath is a little shallow, and I can feel my heart beating as I'm breathing in. And yet as I'm breathing, I'm beginning to relax and get more connected with myself. I wonder what your experience of breathing is. Take a moment to become aware of your physical body. Such a big aspect of our experience. We live in our bodies. Notice how you're sitting. And if you're sitting in a way that allows your body to relax, or maybe you're sitting in a way that is creating tension or pain, just notice. And also notice if any of that is habitual. And if you want, take a deep breath and just relax your body and get comfortable. And maybe your body has been serving you well during this time. Based on this call and being here, listening today, you're here in health, enough health to be on the call. So maybe have some gratitude for your body right now. We put our bodies through a lot, and they serve us so well. Notice any emotion you have. What are you feeling? Many of us have experienced a roller coaster of emotion during this period. Just notice what's present right now. And allow that to be absolutely fine. And perhaps taking a moment to be with your emotion and how you feel right now. There's a message for you about what you need right now on the level of emotion. What self-care is on the level of emotion. And with your next breath, bring your attention to your mind, the part of us that thinks, that talks to ourselves, and that holds pictures, sees images, and imagines. I have great compassion for our minds right now. There's been so much information in these last months. Information that could be felt as scary, information that's conflicting and different. A lot of dramatic information in the press. And our minds can take that information in and make meaning out of that, and then create reactions inside us over that. Our minds are such wonderful tools. So take a moment to be grateful for your mind and be aware of what's in yours right now. And maybe you have an intention for self-care that you would like to direct your mind towards as we embark on this evening's conversation. And if you do, you can give your mind a positive intention for your own self-care. It may be, I'd like a key tonight. I'd like a direction to move in that would give me a better experience of life and have me feel more vital. And then remember your heart. Just breathe into your heart. And let your heart's light flood you, all of you, with warmth. And very briefly, take to consider what's been challenging for you and your self-care over the last number of months. What lessons have you learned? And where have you given? Where have you contributed? Taking another deep breath. As you breathe out, you can open your eyes and come back with us. And Leslie's going to ask you to do something.
Well, the first thing I'm going to ask you to do is, if you have a piece of paper, grab a piece of paper nearby and a pen, pencil, doesn't matter. And I'm going to ask you to draw a picture about what's present for you right now. What maybe your intention is, or what your biggest challenge has been. Whatever's present for you now. And it could be like, it's no art thing, big art thing, where it's just stick figures if you need to draw people. It could be that you feel a stick figure here and you put a bunch of stick figures on the other side because you feel, and maybe a fence or a line in between because you feel isolated from people or disconnected from yourself. Maybe you are feeling a little overwhelmed with everything. So you could like do a rainstorm, dropping down on you and just like all wet and matted down. It could be stick figures. It could be a symbol. It could be stars, all the stars in the sky that you've been looking at and going, oh my gosh, there is beauty here. So it's not necessarily negative. Also, if you don't, and start drawing as I'm talking, because we're not going to take too long with this. But also, if you don't have a piece of paper or pen or pencil to draw with, grab something nearby that can represent it. So maybe like right here, I have an unlit candle. And maybe that's what it is for you. It's like, I feel like I have such a bright light, but it just hasn't been lit during COVID. So that's what it represents for you. So start drawing. Whatever it is for you, it could be, I don't know why I'm thinking of this, from the Wizard of Oz, lions and tigers and bears, oh my. So it could be words to a song. It could be anything. Take about 30 seconds or a minute just to scribble something down or grab something nearby and draw a representation for what you're aware of now, what you've been experiencing. And we're going to just give you a minute or two, not quite two. We're going to keep moving at a pretty quick pace. but something that you go, okay, that kind of touches on, that kind of represents what it is I've been experiencing either through COVID, what you're aware of right now. And so what we're going to do, and I know some of you may just be beginning, but we just want, it doesn't have to be a Da Vinci. It's just something simple that represents. And what we're going to do is we're going to have you all hold up your pictures, your symbols. I didn't draw one, but I just have a piece of paper. You're going to hold it up sort of next to your face so we can see what you've drawn. And then what we're going to do is we're going to start spotlighting. Yes, so we can see, hold it up. There you go, Louisa, we see yours. Okay, wonderful. Who else? Who else is holding one up? Roger's going to rotate spotlighting. So he's getting that set up. Oh, look at that star in the middle of a heart. Beautiful. Yes. Yes, that's from Bulgaria. That's art from Bulgaria. Oh my God. Rosie and Amanda, look at yours. Wow. I hope you all are looking. Wow, this is so unique. Who else do we have? Annabelle, did you have something? Oh, yours is on colored paper. Hold it up so we can see. Yes, good, good, wonderful. Let's take a couple more. Who else? Oh, we not only have a photo, we have a cat. Superwoman, Lisa, that's fantastic. So let's take it off spotlight. Everybody hold them up. Oh, one more, Walashka. Okay, oh, a lighthouse, I love that. Everybody hold yours up and we're gonna just go to gallery view and look at everybody's. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna switch to gallery view and I'm gonna see, oh, look at the creativity. Oh, what is that, Kirill? It looks like pottery. Wow, wow. What do we have? Christina from Sweden, Svenska. Yeah, very good. Who else? Vitaly, look at that big heart Vitaly has. Louise, wow, look at that. Dan. Who else? Susan, Donna, Claudia. I'm just scanning through. Linda. Hi, Nick. Good to see you. I haven't seen you in a while. Susan. This is fantastic. Ann Naylor, so glad you're here. Who else? Elena, Cynthia, Mitchell Brozinski. Well, you're an artist for sure. We know that. Marcos from Madrid. This is awesome. Look at these. I'm doing another look here. Glenda, I'm sorry, I have to keep looking. Scott, Sally, Demetria. Let's see, and Echo, I think that's how you say it. Javier. Oh, wow, this is amazing. Okay.
So before you shut them down, hold them up again. And you've been holding yours up to show. Take a moment to scroll through and connect with other people's drawings and see what the energy is that you feel from looking at their drawings. I just saw Mitchell's and I started to kind of with the zigzags that are coming out of that. So just take a moment to see how you're being touched by other people's expression.
Beautiful, beautiful. So as you're looking, I want to start talking about one of the things Ruth and I discussed about bringing forward through this workshop, and that is allowing for the human condition. I don't know about you, but my life has been topsy-turvy since COVID hit. I lose track of things. Time seems different. It seems like a very good friend of mine said, doesn't 2020 seem like the longest day ever? It's like the same thing. It's like Groundhog Day over and over. Yet every day is a little bit different. But when did I last wash my hair? I need a Post-it note so I can start to track when to wash my hair because I can't remember. So this human condition is surfacing in a lot of ways through fears, through anxiety, through hope, through possibility and creativity and despair. So one of the things that we want to do is look at what has been your biggest challenge during this time, the very human part of you. So I'm going to turn to Ruth right now, and I'm going to ask you, Ruth, what's been one of your biggest challenges during this time?
Yeah, well, so everything was going actually amazing at the beginning of COVID. I felt like I was part of this global family. I still, everything was going great. And then suddenly work began to get cancelled. So I had a big retainer project that was just stopped like that. I had a huge project that had been booked, which those two projects would have kept me going for the entire year, and both of them were just stopped. And I had no pipeline, no nothing. And that was kind of okay too. I mean, I expected that to happen. But then what happened was the government very generously was giving out a lot of support, financial support, to people all over the country. And except for, they actually called us the 3 million excluded people. that was the title in the newspaper, except for some of us self-employed people. And there were a few others as well that weren't included, that didn't meet the criteria for whatever reason. And when this happened, it was like a trigger. And I suddenly, I felt, my reaction was like, I'm unsupported. I'm on my own. How am I going to cope? It's not fair. It's so not fair. How come other people are getting it? A lot of my friends are getting it. And a lot of, so my patterns came up of comparison. And as I was going through this, I went into a sort of disconnected place. I disengaged. And what was going on underneath, and those of you who've done Insight 2 will recognize the layers of limitation that we explore in the two. A deep, untrue, yet it feels true, assumption about me was surfacing, which is, well, no matter what I do, I'm just unworthy and excluded, by the way. And the newspaper heading was emphasizing that point. And even though I am aware and I knew I had the tools to get out of this, I had a little period of time where I didn't want to get out of it. And I became kind of identified with this role. I'd show up and I'd talk to people about it, and it was even becoming boring to me. But I just felt like I'm walking around with arrows on me. She's unworthy. However, I do have the tools, and one of the things that I was aware of was I was dramatizing and blinkering myself. And if I was blinkering myself looking at some evidence, it was quite important to look at some other evidence, because there likely was. So I don't know if you wanted me, Leslie, to talk about how I moved myself through this, but that was my biggest challenge.
You know what I think would be great is I'd love to have people put in the chat what their biggest challenge has been. Yeah, what has been your biggest challenge during COVID? And
would you like to share yours while they're doing it, Leslie?
Sure. I mean, mine's pretty simple. I got so caught up in Zoom and so caught up in just being busy because there was a lot going on that my exercise took a back seat. And I'm someone who prides myself on my self-discipline, and I'm really good about that. But there would be a full week and I would realize I was at my desk all day long and I didn't exercise. So I judged myself, and I was like, okay, tomorrow. And then it'd be the end of the day. So that was one real challenge for me, was to just do basic physical self-care for me, and keep that up. So I'm just looking at moving, money, forgetting, got too busy, anxiety, dealing with toxicity, biggest challenge, finding and experiencing joy anywhere in my life, being forced to face our stuff. I think that's been the biggest challenge, is really, because the world's been pulled away, really looking at what's inside of me that I haven't dealt with, I haven't acknowledged, I haven't lifted into loving. I think it's been magnified during this time. And so, I think what we want to do is start looking at, in this chat, how do we keep growing? So we're really, really aware of our limitations and what our challenges have been, but how do we keep growing in the midst of that? So would you share, Ruthie, what you did when you were in that to keep growing and moving?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I became aware of was this is, it might have been a thing that happened to me, but the pattern I was experiencing was really familiar, and I'd had before many times. So I could have said, well, I'm a victim of the government's choice, or I could look at it and go, well, there's something to learn here. And I really needed to learn it if I was going to make my way through it. So I started to kind of give myself a reality check. I was dramatizing. I won't be able to eat. I won't be able to pay the bills. So it was like, do I have food in the fridge? Yeah, I do. Do I have a roof over my head? Yes, I do. Do I have money in the bank right now? Yes, I do. Do I have a little bit of work coming in? Yes, I do, actually. And I started to really look at evidence in the present. Today I'm well and quite abundant, actually. And I started small with actually what was in the fridge. And also I had food for the dog. That was cool as well, a whole cupboard full of food for the dog. So a reality check was really important. And what started to happen was that as I was honest with myself about really what was going on, I separated the anxiety and lack of self-worth feeling from the reality, from the reality of what was out there. And my attitude started to shift, started to open to gratitude for what I have. And as I'm talking, I can feel it now. It's like this thing began to open in me that felt so supported and felt so supported. I had created this roof over my head. It's like I felt resourceful. Whereas I'd felt depleted and helpless before, I suddenly felt strong and resourceful and grateful. And it began with being really present, being aware now. And as this went on and it opened up into gratitude, my creativity kicked in again. I didn't want to work before. Why should I, kind of thing. But as I was opening to gratitude, I started to love my life and I began to get ideas for things. I began to have extra to give to people, and I found myself receiving. People were supporting a lot in lots of different ways. Anyway, this continued, and I also, as I was grateful for what I had created in terms of the abundance, I began to consciously choose to do things to create a better life for myself. So I was consciously eating well, consciously walking more, consciously doing more meditation. And so my gratitude was building. And there was one day I was walking, I lived by the sea, and I was walking along expanding this attitude, and suddenly, like, the strength inside grew so much, I felt like a hero. I sort of said to myself, wow, you're a hero, Ruth. You made it through a pandemic with no financial support. that was great. So, and really what I'm saying here is the attitude shift opened so much. It was an attitude of unworthy that that kind of was the heart of the negativity. But the attitude of being grateful, which we talk about in so many of our Insight seminars, the attitude of being grateful and being in the present and aware and choosing the heart, that opened me up to such an expansive consciousness, and that has continued. I mean, there's many, many more stories, which I won't say about that. And there was one other thing with that was quite important, and it's just blipped out. It'll come back maybe.
Well, let me jump in. Let me jump in here, because you're reminding me also of some of the tricks that I've used whenever I've had any anxiety, when I felt uncertain. And I started looking, because I facilitate Insight. I'm like, what are the tools in Insight? And there have been two primary tools that I've used from Insight. One is the heart chart, the contraction versus the expansion of the heart, and going into the mind gets us out of the heart, going into the emotions. So the mind is all the mental jibber jabber. The emotions are all the feeling victim, feeling overwhelmed, feeling out of control. And so the opening heart is expansion. And for me, one of the tricks that I use to expand is ask myself this question: what do I not yet know that if I knew it would open my thinking? And just by asking that question, it leaves my mind open to receive new and different information. Because when I think I know what's going on, I think I understand, but I'm in anxiety or judgment, I've shut down my perspective. So opening my perspective by asking, what do I not yet know that if I knew could shift this for me? And another thing I've thought of a lot in the world on so many levels is the game of life, the red-black game. Actually, I had a meal with Russell Bishop not long ago, and he and I were talking, and I said, Russell, the founder of Insight, who created all this, I said, Russell, you know what I think, because it was right around the US election. I said, you know what we're living in? We're living in a national and global red-black game. We're in the game of life. And he looked at me and he said, oh yeah, and everybody's voting red. It's like, I'm right, you're wrong, I'm right. And we can do that with ourselves. Like when I judge myself for not exercising regularly, or watching a little too much YouTube on my phone as I'm laying in bed, getting ready to go to sleep. And all of a sudden I look at the clock and I'm like, oh, no wonder I'm tired every day. Any kind of self-judgment or judgment of others puts us in the red-black game. With if people are voting red, nobody wins. You can't accumulate the most number of positive points when everybody's voting red. And so in order to vote black where everyone wins, the question I ask myself is, what is for my greater good or the greater good of the group, the world, humanity? I take it both personally and globally. What is the greater good here? And how can I lift my perspective to see the bigger picture? Because when I'm in anxiety, my focus shrinks. And when I open my perspective, what do I not know? What can I see? What is here for me to learn? So I ask myself really dynamic questions that move me in a positive direction, rather than, oh, why didn't I exercise again? It's like, okay, what do I need to do differently tomorrow so I can have even a small win there? So I'd love to hear from some of the folks questions, post questions in the chat because we want to hear from you. It could be what you do to take care of yourself, or it could be a question you might have about self-care. So Gabriella, if you see any questions that have popped up, you can feel free to ask them. And while she's doing that, here's a simple self-care. I'm going to ask everyone to stand up and walk around your chair 2 times, just so you move your body while we're in this meeting, because that's one thing. A simple little thing to do is to move your body. And yeah, like Ruthie's do it, stretch, move.
Yeah, give it a wiggle.
Yeah, wiggle, yeah.
Actually, one of my favorite exercises is, and my dog's not here right now, but I kind of wag my tail as well. And it's really good for my hips and my lower back.
So do you have anything for us, Gabriella?
I do. That was fantastic. Thank you for that reminder to move around.
That's my exercise for the day.
We can add that to the notes. All right. So here's a question that I know I can relate to. Is there something I can do that keeps me remembering more to take care of myself? And how can I increase the likelihood of remembering more or to minimize forgetting?
Well, I'm going to start with that, then I'm going to turn it over to Ruth, and I want you to take, I think you know what I'm referring to. If not, I'll remind you because we talked about it. For me, like David Allen, who I worked with for years, has this great metaphor. If you need to take something to the office, back in the days when we went to the office, but if you need to take something with you when you leave home, where do you put it so you'll remember to take it with you? You put it, all of you have a special place on a table next to the door. Some of you put it on the floor in front of the door. So he talks about we have to have ways of tricking ourselves to remember. So you can do little techniques like Post-its on the mirror, have an accountability buddy, someone who, I know Ruth and I, we talk weekly, and it's like, how are you doing? And, sometimes it's like we say, I'm going to do this. And then she'll say, did you do it? And there's something about when we have to report to somebody, it keeps us accountable. But Ruth, would you talk about Microsteps?
Yeah, so I like to think of myself as a spiritual person who's, got a good spiritual focus. And I've been a really undisciplined meditator. I just have. And there've been times when I've been super disciplined about it, but it's been like an attitude of obligation. Yeah, I'll sit down and just do them. I'll make myself do them. And what I love about Insight lately is there's been so much online, and I've joined in with things. I part facilitated and part participated in the Transforming Yourself into Loving series. And Marianne and Leslie were running a session, and they were talking about microsteps in the session I can't even remember what the topic was now, but and I work with microsteps with my own clients, but I really decided I would do a microstep around meditation. And the deal was it needed to be so small that it would be easy to do, and there was no way you couldn't really do it or not do it. So I chose, you'd think a microstep around meditation would be to sit down and meditate, even if it was for 1 minute. And I knew I probably wouldn't do it. I probably would rebel against that. So I had my microstep, which was sit down on the chair and do nothing with it. Just sit on my chair, which is, by the way, a very comfortable chair. And it was kind of funny, and it was fun and comfortable. And I just sat on the chair. So I did the microstep. And I think what I did was I put something in my body in a way that it was fun and enjoyable, and I liked it, and it was no pressure, and it was so easy. And actually I did rebel, because the thing about microsteps is the science shows they work if you do them every day for a consistent amount of time, typically about 33 days. I did it once or twice or a few times in the week or something. I wasn't even disciplined about that. If we fast forward maybe 6 months later, something has happened. It's never happened in my whole life of meditating, which is decades. And I am getting up early, and I'm sitting in the chair with willingness and fun and ease, and I'm meditating every day, and sometimes for a period of an hour and a half, 2 hours. I mean, what? But it's all about making it so easy. And the micro step, I mean, the science has proven it, but I had never really done it in the way the science shows it. It's to choose a step that is so ridiculously tiny that it's no effort at all. And part of our brains say, well, if it's not hard work, I'm not going to be able to do, it's not doing anything. Well, actually, no, it's about switching. It's about doing something to the neural pathways. It's about reframing. So I would say if it's something that you're forgetting because you have a reluctance to do it, part of you has a reluctance to do it, find a way to make it easy and fun, and don't even do it properly. Just put yourself in the vicinity in the tiniest way. So that was my story.
So I've been cheating and scanning on the chat a little bit. Sorry, Gabrielle. But I saw a question that really struck me, and I'd like to take a moment to address: how do I feel worthy to take care of myself? And one of the things that I find sabotages my self-care on any level is whenever I judge myself. Judgment is the saboteur for all of that. And I've been working with this idea of holding myself in awe of myself. Like you think of a little baby, little bitty baby, you hold them in your hand and you look in, and the innocence and the purity through their eyes and their little wiggly bodies and the noises they make. I watched on Instagram, a friend of mine has this toddler that was eating blueberries, and it was like, and I watched this for 5 minutes, just a simple, innocent kid discovering blueberries at about a year old or so, and it was messy and it was so pure. So when we look at these little kids, we see that awe, and that lives inside of us. And connecting with the purity, the goodness, the sweetness. And if you go, I can't find it, I'm going to give away, facilitating insight too. You get an affirmation. Most of you know that. So I actually had an assistant call me on, I think, Saturday morning saying, I'll just say Mary. Mary says she lost her affirmation. She lost her affirmation. I said, well, where did she lose it? She said she was looking in the mirror saying it and she lost it. I said, well, go back, tell her to look in the mirror, keep saying it till she finds it again. And she came into the room. I found my affirmation. I'm like, so part of it is connecting with yourself. Do you take time when you're brushing your teeth, combing your hair in the morning to look in the mirror into your eyes, the beauty of your eyes, and say, hi, sweetie pie, or whatever sweet talk is for you? It could be, hey. I don't know what it is for you. I don't know. I'm doing guys and girls, it's whatever it is. But however you take that moment to drop into yourself, look into your own eyes like you would that of a baby, and through the judgment and the muck and the hurt and the anger, come still. Like that closed eye process was so nice that Ruth did, because that brings you present. Just come present with the goodness. And that's just one technique, but look for that purity, that goodness even if you don't think it's there, keep looking till you find it, because it is.
I
So
have an add-on to that, because sometimes for me, when I'm in my negativity, it's quite hard for me to look and see that. But what does work for me is to change my body position. And funny enough, when you talked about the mirror, I thought, that's actually putting the body back in the place where it first had the affirmation. And the reason I'm saying this, I'd scanned also a few of the questions, and some of them are around habitual mental self-talk, or how do I feel good enough to do something good for me. I remember something that John Roger, Insight's founder, who is no longer alive, but a lot of his teachings are still alive through his work. He said something like, don't worry about whether you feel unworthy. Just get up and do it anyway, because the unworthiness will just fall off. And I use that a lot. And yeah, so that I just wanted to add that bit. If we move our body, actually just move our bodies, but also we have a body shape that goes with the unworthiness or the judgment. We kind of some of us might curl over a little bit. We look down. We might tense up. We're in a really different body state when we're feeling open, happy, vital, looking at the sunshine. As we move our bodies into a more open state, the brain responds, and we start to open up channels of experience and reference that's been stored in our bodies that gives us access to far more expression. So that's what I would say. Move your body.
yeah, and we have a few more minutes. There's one more question that I saw about how to move out of being a victim, feeling like a victim by COVID, by my work, by my children running around at home because they have nowhere to go. I thought I loved my spouse, but now I'm not so sure that we are 24/7 together. But feeling like a victim is putting us continually in a position of feeling disempowered. We have no authority, we have no power. So dovetailing on what Ruth said about microsteps, finding simple ways to make a different choice. And one question, you can tell, I like smart questions. Like, what is it I don't know that if I did know? But I think a question I've run throughout most of my life since, I got involved in learning about myself and growth and spirit and all of that is, what is my learning? What am I to learn? It always shifts it out of, this is terrible, ain't it awful? I've been done wrong. I'm like, what's my learning? Is my learning to love myself? Is my learning to practice forgiveness for myself of others? Is my learning to slow down and take a breath and come present, like Ruth said, and in that presence, be grateful for what I have. And there's what is my learning takes us down a different pathway. So I know
one more add-on, victim, which just another thing that's all wonderful as well. I do that too. But sometimes I think when I'm feeling like a victim, there's action to be taken, and not necessarily action in that area. I find that the world mirrors my internal state and belief system, and my own actions as well. So when I found myself feeling like a victim or having no power, often what I've done is I've taken a look at what aren't I taking responsibility for that I can actually. So it might be keeping some agreements, really practical things. There's a whole list of things I said I would do and I haven't done it, and I'm feeling like a victim to all the build-up. Or I mean, I'm thinking of something that that I haven't done. You know, I've just told you about my money situation. There are little bits of money that are owed to me that I haven't followed up. And that was true before the bank didn't give me any money. So I was almost giving a message to the universe. I'm someone who doesn't care if people pay me. I could tell you some more dramatic stories, but I won't. But that seems really true for me. And so it's hard to look at where am I accountable, and I'm not necessarily accountable for that thing, but is there some way in my consciousness that I have been creating that energy field of, yeah, do it to me, stick it to me in that area? And if there is, there may be some really tiny steps that I can start to do.
So we're coming to the close, and I'd like you to take another piece of paper, and this time draw a picture or symbol of what your next step in your self-care is. It could be just a bright, shining sun, something in nature. It could be reaching out to people, even though we're doing social distancing in some parts of the world. I do have regular people I touch in with. Ruth is definitely my main one, but I have others that I stay in connection with. I check in. Remember, Joey talked about connecting and deep connection, you know, really spending time. Ruth and I think our last conversation, I said, Ruth, we've been talking for 3 hours. Is that we have? So we lost ourselves in our conversation. So reaching out to people, it could be, maybe you have like a cat or a dog and you just, that's your way of reconnecting. So hold up your pictures. Once again, we want you to look through the, we'll spotlight a few. How about spotlighting a few, Roger, and then we'll do the gallery view. And we'll wrap it up. So put up your pictures, hold up your pictures. There you go, Mary. Hold it a little closer, I can't quite see it.
Sleep.
Oh, sleep.
Yay, Mary.
Who else? Who else has one? Gloria. Oh, look at that. That's beautiful, Gloria. Wonderful. And
oh.
Fantastic.
Love that.
Who else? Oh, Rosanna, nice. Oh, a heart with a bunch of people, connecting in the heart with many people. I love that. Wonderful, beautiful. Who else? You have anyone else? Everyone hold it up and let's go to gallery view. And let's see. Oh, Sarah, I see yours is beautiful with the red heart. Chenka, yours is, look at your flower, beautiful. Rosita, who else? Who else can I see? Christina, where's yours? Miriam or Will. Let's see, who else has one? Susan, there you go. Donna, very nice. Yep, Mary. Lucy, yes, beautiful. Okay, wow, that's pretty good. I like that. I like that.
And let yourself receive from one another as well as you see these pictures, because many of them have really beautiful energy.
Yes. So look through the gallery, look through everyone's. I see Varia, Annabelle, Rosita, very nice. Okay, well, hopefully you got some inspiration. Vitaly, yes, 2021, lots of hearts. I agree with that, Vitaly. For those of you who don't know Vitaly, he is the Russian facilitator and the supporting the Russian community so much. He's translated for myself and others, so he's a hero in Russia, as are many of you. Many of you, look at how you're a hero in your own life and be a hero to yourself, meaning keep going, keep looking up, keep expanding, keep connecting. What would you like to say, Ruth?
Well, I think one of the things that's been so important to me is to become more and more of like my best ever companion, including when I don't know how to get out of my downtime. Like if I have a best friend with me, how would I want them to treat me? And kind of giving myself a hug, and having the patience and not having the judgment, just going, that's okay. It would be weird if you didn't have some funny feelings right now. So I wish you all that you can each be your own best companion ever. And I find in that space, I have so much more to give and to share. And I too know many of you, and there are many of you I don't know, but the ones I do know, I know you already give a lot in the communities that you're in. And I believe that every time we come together and do something like this, and we share our vision for expansion, we create a shift in the energy here. And quantum physics says that it only needs one tiny thing to start moving for the whole universe to change. And I believe that every time we gather together in these gatherings, we do that. So really from my heart to yours, God bless you. I'm so privileged to be with us all. Thank you.
And for me, I really work on finding the humor. You know, I capitalize on humor. I say, what is funny about this? What is one thing that I'm going to tell this story someday and it's going to be funny? So let's look for the joy. Let's look for the humor. I'm not saying, you know, laugh, be simplistic in it, but I'm saying really from the heart, the joy, because it's always there. Oh, we need to do promo. We forgot about that. We got a minute or two. So we've got some next things coming up. So Roger, sorry, we're right up against time here. We're going to run through this pretty quickly. So next week, two more of my good friends, Heidi Banks and Rachel Jane, are going to be doing the last in this series of insights, the series Insights for Living Your Best Life around relationships. So that should be quite interesting. Next week, you'll get a link to that if you haven't registered already.
Yeah, and one of the things that they're focusing on is how do we meet someone new when we're locked down? And looping back to Joey's session, one of the things he said was it's not just connecting to one person, it's a diversity of contact. So I think that would be a really good session to go, well, so how do we get intimate with somebody else that we don't know yet in this time?
Okay, what else do we have?
We have Insight Ignite. Okay, I'll talk. I don't know much about Insight Ignite, but what I understand is it's a kind of introductory seminar which has the ingredients of Insight 1 as an intro to people, and it's very powerful, fun, deep, and connected. And January the 26th, the 16th and the 23rd. And Gabriella, was there a special offer here? Oh yes, it is. No, yeah, limited time. I'm sorry, it's on the handout. So the full price is $200, but for a limited time, there's a holiday special. So you can register, invite your friends who haven't experienced Insight to register for only $50. I'm not sure what the times are in time zones, but sounds like a great experience. I'm a believer in online experiencing, by the way, so I think it'd be great and innovative. We have one more, I think.
Insight 2, committing to the power of your heart. We've run an Insight 2 through Insight, and it really, really works. So it's going to be on Zoom. I think that when we come together in our hearts, the loving bypasses any methodology or form like Zoom. We connect. I've had deep connections. So if you haven't taken Insight 2, get in there, early bird pricing, February, and the Insight office can give you more information. You can go to our webpage. So I want to.
And if you have done Insight 2, I think it would be a blast to even if you've done it before, it'd be a blast to experience it online. I mean, if we can do this over the internet, the planet is completely available to us. I think that's cool.
So thank you very much for joining us. Thank you for letting us go over a little bit on time. I hope you've gotten some good little tidbits that you can take and work with. I've loved working with Ruth. Thank you, Gabriella. Thank you, Roger, our group behind the scenes that are really making this work. And Irene, I think, is here. Thanks, many
And
thanks.
the translators,
all the
Ali, I
translators.
think, and Rossi and Vitali. Thank you all so much.
Alicia
Again.
and the others that we haven't named, we're sorry. Thank yourselves. Look in the mirror and say, great job.
Yeah.
Anyway, God bless you all. Thank you so much. You can unmute and we can say goodbye and hope to see you next week. I won't be there. I may be there, but I won't be presenting. So
Adiós, muchas gracias.
Leslie.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Very much, Leslie.
Bye-bye.
Adiós, muchísimas gracias.
Bye-bye.
Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah. Ciao.
Gracias, Alicia, por estar siempre ahí. Gracias.
Adiós,
Gracias, Alicia. Thank you, Leslie. Love you.
Thank you, Leslie.
Eso, Gaby.